I'd like to do this one on beauty and the eyes of the beholder. When I was young, and I did a year of university, and then I was called home to Philly. I decided to hitchhike from Denver and head east, go all the way back to Philly that way. And I had a call out. And, at the time I didn't know I was always talking to the Lord, but I had a call out. I wanted to meet some hobos, some real hobos. And I wanted to meet a real holy person. I didn't have a clue of what that was. So when I left, I took the bus from Denver to the border of New Mexico because I had that hitchhiking ticket and met these hobos, real hobos, and hung out with them for a little while. That's a story in itself. Then I end up going down to Albuquerque. And when I get down there, I go to the university and I'm looking for a ride. And I was sent to a place where there was a billboard and for rides. So I go there and there's people wanting rides and there's people wanting riders. So I'm looking on the billboard and here this brother comes up to me and he says, "Are you looking for a ride or a rider?" And I said, "I'm looking for a ride. I'm going out east, back to Philly." And he says, "Well, I'm going to Peoria, Illinois. That's on the way." I said, "Great, man." He had the vehicle. He was looking for a rider. He said, "I got a place to stay for a couple nights. I'm not going to leave until they have the spring festival here at the university. I'm waiting for that." I said, "Okay, I could do that." So I went with him to this house. And it was kind of a crash pad. And when we walked in, there were young people in there, all young people except for one lady, and she was running it. She had set it up with the owners, and this was in Old Town Albuquerque, that if she fixed the place up a little bit, she could use it to house people who were basically living on the streets and traveling around the country at the time. That was in the 70s, and there was a lot of that kind of action going on, early 70s. So she's making the first vegetarian meal I ever ate, which was basically beans and salad and tortillas. And she looked at me when I got there, and I could feel her piercing me in a way I hadn't experienced before. But I ended up staying there, and what her agreement with everybody was that no drugs while you're there, no drinking while you're there. You have to come in reasonably sober and behave, and then you do an hour or so of work in the morning. And so she was doing little works to make the place nicer. And she asked me in the morning if I would help her with the store she was refinishing. So as we're working on it together, she's telling me that she calls herself a yoga nun. And her meditation was her love from and to God. And she said she would get so high that she would just have tears pouring down her face. Well, I'm looking at her, a big question mark. This is not something I know about at the time. But it was, it was different. It was interesting to me. And anyway, so we stayed a couple days and then came to Spring Festival. Big gathering at the university. I mean, probably 10,000 people there. It was huge. And a lot of young people. I remember sitting in a circle, interesting conversations. The normal things in those days. The music, of course, the smoking weed was all part of it. And so I'm in this crowd of people. And in walks Mary. Now, Mary is her name. And she's in her 70s. And she walked in there, and she was, without a question, the most beautiful woman I had ever seen. I mean, the glow around her kicked my ass. And at the same time blew my mind in that, wow, how can she be that beautiful? And, it was real obvious it wasn't her form. Now, she had a pleasant form. But the beauty wasn't her form. But not that kind of beauty. And here we are amongst all these young, pretty gals everywhere. No comparison. And that was like a totally new experience to me. After that whole journey of a lot of experiences on that journey, Amen, was kind of initiating me onto life on the road with him. Uh, it was one of the things that stood out. Another time I'm with a brother, and we're in North Carolina. We're taken to someone's farm, household, and he had his mother-in-law staying there. She had her own little guest house. She was bedridden, had this terrible disease that deformed her body. Physically, she looked really rough. She loved the brother, though, her son-in-law. She told us all kinds of beautiful stories about him. And in the meantime, I'm looking at her, and she is glowing. And, you by this time, I've got a better handle on it. But her glow was the beauty of her love. And the Father in her. People in this world, it's, that's the whole thing with eyes, right? You have physical eyes. I mean, they glorify these women who are singing, wearing hardly any clothes. They got pretty legs, they got nice boobs, and they use the makeup and whatever kind of weird clothes they put on. My eyes, not cool, not even close to beautiful, opposite. But evidently, for most of this world, it's attractive. Completely different set of eyes. When I was young, I mean, even at a young age, I don't know when I started picking up on it. It was before I met Amen, because I'd already walked through a few movies. But women who were more modest in their dress looked more beautiful to me. Really what it was is my spiritual eyes were starting to open up. That's what was happening. That modesty in itself is a beauty that's of the Father when it's coming from the right place. So, the beauty. We had a brother in the early years, and he was one of the first brothers. And he had a rough young life. He had missing most of his teeth from drugs, and his complexion was a mess. And yet, the first time I saw him, it was another one of those. I mean, and everybody experienced it. All the brothers and sisters experienced the same thing. This aura of beauty around him. You start getting it. That, of course, you have two different sets of eyes, because there's two different spirits in this world. So the more awake you are in the Father's spirit, it's not going to be fleshy. But you start seeing that real beauty is an emanation of His love. Now, of course, we look at flowers, and they're perfect emanations, and they're beautiful in every way, aesthetically and every other kind of way. But they are emanations of His love. And all the other natural beauties in the world, and even in the physical form. I mean, there is what there is. You could have a very good-looking physical form. Trouble is, people put too much emphasis on that. And they miss out on the real beauty a lot of times. And get deceived by it. And then, in a lot of cases, because of that deception, of being attracted to something that outwardly is beautiful or seemingly beautiful, but not really, then there's pain down the road because you actually entertain a space that's in reality ugly. In reality. And it goes, both sexual attractions. Because, everybody's wired that way. They're wired that way. Now, of course, to look pleasant if you're able, to not smell bad if you're able, to not be a distraction to people. And but it's an amazing thing, when you're really shining in the spirit, those who have spiritual eyes see it. My first years on the road, the first months, I was totally out of it, caring what I looked like. I had sand in my beard and my hair. And every now and again, I'd look at myself, my robe wasn't very clean. And I'd look at myself and go, wow, man, this seems like people wouldn't be too attracted to this look. And yet the people who had eyes, they saw the glow of the Lord on me. And I know he was there glowing. I know that. That was a very powerful time in my walk. And so people, yeah, they were attracted anyways. Those who had eyes, they saw it. And there was a constant reproof of that. Of course, in a little while, a man came to me and, through brothers and let me know, Garrett, it's good to take a shower once a week and wash your robe once a week. Keep everything nice, and we call it Zen, clean and in order and simple. So yeah, I've gotten down with that over the years, which is one of the big things my mom recognizes, because I wasn't that clean and orderly in my youth. But yeah, beauty. Beauty is of the Lord. Real beauty. And all the rest of it is a deception. And it would be really good for everybody to recognize that. Amen.